Now, let us discuss what is input impedance of an antenna. Now, what does the antenna do? It radiates power, which means we are feeding some power to the antenna from a transmitting circuit, or we are getting some power from the antenna in a receiving circuit. Now, when we feed the power to the antenna, antenna will radiate out those power. We expect that it will radiate completely those power. Now, you know from transmission line or from maximum power transfer theorem that if I have a device which is completely or properly matched to the source, then the power that is delivered to the device from the source is maximum. Now, anybody or anyone who remembers what will be this amount? I am giving you 4 choices. It is a multiple choice question. You have a matched source to a load, and the power or energy received in the load will be how much? 100%, 75%, 50%, 25%. If I give you 4 choices, what will happen? What will be your answer? I think somebody has answered it. If you have answered it, please tell it. I have unmuted. You can tell. Anybody who understands this can tell me, tell your name and tell the answer. 100, 75, 50, 25. Out of these 4, which one will be the correct answer? Okay. I think most of you are struggling to find the answer. Now, when we say that it is properly matched for maximum power transfer, you require properly matching. Source is matched to the load. The source impedance and load impedance are complex conjugate of each other. Why they are complex conjugate of each other? It means on the reactive part, in one part will be inductive, other part will be capacitive. So the reactive part will cancel out. So then what remains is the resistive part. By complex conjugative, we mean that both the resistance will be equal. So if you connect a voltage source to 2 resistors which are of equal value, resistor R, other is resistor R. Both are connected in series to a voltage source. What will happen? Across each of the resistors, you will find out a voltage which is V by 2. So voltage will be half. 50% is the correct answer. Now, what are the 2 resistors in this case? One is the source impedance or output impedance of the source. Other is the device impedance or input impedance of the device. In this case, it is the antenna. So if I am using an antenna to a circuit and antenna is consuming power, or antenna I am delivering power, or I am collecting power from antenna, then I can say that in place of an antenna, I can put a resistor or an equivalent impedance. Now, what will be the value of that resistor or equivalent impedance? That value will be equal to the impedance value which will consume the power which is same in amount that the antenna is supposed to radiate. So that is the radiation resistance of the antenna. If I connect that, the circuit will see an input impedance, and that input impedance will be characterizing the impedance circuit parameters which are connected to the antenna. So in place of antenna, this figure shows you that I am connecting Zin. Zin is the input impedance of the antenna that is connected to the circuit. So what is the advantage of this? You can design the circuit. You find out the input impedance of the antenna, then design the circuit, which is the source or receiver for the antenna. Their impedances must match. So if you know input impedance of the antenna, you can design the circuit. Otherwise, if the circuit design is not in your hand, somebody else has already designed the circuit, you know what is the output impedance of the circuit, accordingly design the antenna. Now, on this input impedance not only depends on the antenna, but also on nearby devices which are coupling to the antenna or which are affecting the antenna parameters. So, but in our discussion, for the time being, we will consider only isolated antennas which are not disturbed by any other outside device or other outside antenna. Now let us come to the parameters of the antenna. Today I will confine myself to the radiation parameter and the parameters which can be derived looking at the radiation parameters, or which can be defined, not derived. Derived parameters we'll see in the next class. Today we'll see the parameters that we can define looking at radiation parameters. So now you see what I am doing is I am putting an antenna, maybe a dipole antenna, at the origin of my coordinate system. So I have shown you XYZ coordinate system, which is Cartesian coordinate system, and which is also superimposed on a spherical coordinate system, which has r, theta, phi. Both of them have the same origin. So if the origin is same, I am putting my antenna there, and my antenna is radiating as shown in the picture around the origin. You can see there is a large lobe, there are smaller lobes. This is a 3D pattern for the antenna. The larger lobe contains maximum amount of energy, that is called the major lobe or the main lobe. The smaller lobes contain much less amount of energy. These are called minor lobes. We'll discuss about some more lobes or classify these lobes later. In the horizontal plane or XY plane, this plane we call the azimuth plane. In this plane, phi varies from x towards y. So suppose I have a distance, I am looking at the field at a distance r from the center, and if I drop a perpendicular onto the azimuth plane or XY plane, or if I draw that r formed from the radius, I go on the surface of the sphere and reach the XY plane, then I move an amount of phi, d phi, that shows the d phi or differential amount in the phi direction. Similarly, from Z, if I am coming towards XY plane, then I call that angle theta angle. The plane containing the Z axis, all planes containing the Z axis are called elevation plane, which means elevation plane is perpendicular to the azimuth plane. And why I call it elevation plane? Because this plane is elevated towards the Z axis from the XY plane. Now, if the elevation is complete, then the theta is equal to 0. If elevation is incomplete, theta can have some value. When the elevation plane coincides with azimuth plane, theta is equal to pi by 2. Then this picture also shows you a small area on the surface of the sphere. R sin theta, sorry, dA is equal to R square sin theta d theta d phi. I expect that you have read about coordinate systems already. So I am not going to explain that here. But what I am showing is on this spherical surface, there can be 3 perpendicular directions. One is along the theta direction that comes from Z towards XY. One is along the phi direction that goes from X towards Y. One is along the R direction. You can have R, theta and phi direction. Accordingly, your field, E field and H field can have ER, HR component, these are along R directions, or E phi, H phi components along phi direction, or E theta, S theta component along the theta direction. Now let us define what is radiation pattern. This is the angular variation of radiation in the far field due to the antenna. Remember this, the important term here is the far field. If you are in the reactive field or near-zone reactive far field, then this definition does not apply radiation pattern, because radiation pattern is not consistent, it varies. So angular variation of radiation in the far field due to antenna is called radiation pattern. Examples of radiation pattern are directive single or multiple narrow beams. You can see there are beams, so there can be one beam, there can be multiple beams. The beams are in a particular direction, then I call it a directive beam. Or we can have omnidirectional beams. So uniform radiation in one plane. Omnidirectional means omnipresent, you know, present everywhere. Similarly, in one plane, if the radiation is present equally well in all directions, in all parts, then it is a omnidirectional pattern. Then you can have a main beam which you can shape as per our requirement. So that is called a shaped beam. Now let us look at what happens in the main lobe, or what is the main lobe. How I get the main lobe? The main lobe shows the angle in which you get highest radiation intensity. This is containing the direction of maximum radiation. Reason for this is the fields from various parts of the antenna. You can imagine antenna to consist of many accelerating charges. Since it is consisting of many accelerating charges, each charge is going to radiate. If it is small and the antenna is small, then what will happen? These charges will be close to each other. The phase difference due to their location will not be much. So all of them will be in phase. The fields due to these charges will be in phase in the far field. Therefore, they will combine constructively because they are in phase. So what we say in physics, a constructive interference will occur. They will combine constructively and we will get the main lobe. If they are not in phase or near phase, or if they are near out of phase, then they will not combine constructively. There will be some destructive combination. Because of that, we will get the lower beams or the minor beams or the side lobes, etc. For constant phase source, the phase arrival in a direction is normal to the antenna. so the pattern is maximum. Now the problem with this is the electric field can be complex in nature. So if it is complex in nature, we take its mod or absolute value. That is the problem with field pattern. Instead of field pattern, sometimes we consider quantity. Sometimes we consider radiation pattern, power pattern. So either we consider radiation pattern or we consider power pattern. The power pattern is an alternative to the field pattern. In this, we find out the variation of power with angle. How to find out power? You can always find out power by finding out the Poynting vector. I hope you have already studied Poynting vector either as P or as S in your electromagnetic course. P or S is equal to real part of E cross H star, real of total of E cross H star. Now let us see an example of a Z-directed source. For a Z-directed source, you know H phi in the for a plane Z-directed source will radiate a plane wave. For the plane wave, you know H phi is equal to eta E theta. Now when H phi is equal to eta E theta, then E cross H star is equal to E theta cross H phi star. Now for H phi you can put eta E theta star. So E theta star is equal to E theta mod square. So P will be eta E theta mod square. So P theta phi or the power pattern will be equal to mod of F theta phi square. Now, the moment we come to power, we cannot stay without talking about dB. The power is mostly related or expressed in terms of dB because we always try to compare power between two sources or two different powers we try to compare. So we use dB. So in terms of dB, how do you find out dB for power? Take the logarithm of the power, multiply that by 10. So logarithm of the power gives you bell, multiply by 10 gives you decibel. dB is decibel. So 10 log P theta phi gives me power in dB. Now P theta phi we just saw is equal to F theta phi square. So it will be 10 log F theta phi square. You know A log B to the power n is equal to Na into log B. So using that 10 log F theta phi square is equal to 20 log F theta phi. Now you see we have got we are in an excellent situation. If we express the pattern in terms of dB, the power pattern is same as the radiation pattern or the field pattern. So P theta phi dB mod is equal to F theta phi dB. So this is an interesting observation of using decibels per pattern. So when you do any calculation of pattern, you can use always decibel. That is more convenient. Now let us look at something into the radiated electric field. In the radiation pattern, we are looking at a radiated electric field. What is it? It varies over the sphere, over the surface of the sphere. centered on an antenna and it is independent upon R. It is dependent on theta and phi only. It is constant as long as R is constant. This is normalized with respect to its maximum value when we are plotting. So if I do that, then my F theta phi field pattern is equal to E theta by E theta max. E theta max is the maximum value of the E theta. This is the absolute value of the magnitude. It is a real quantity and this is relative to linear polarization in the theta orientation. Of course, you can take any other orientation, but most of the books take it. The polarization is linear in the theta direction, which means the linear polarization in theta direction means E field is linear in the direction of theta. We will discuss polarization later. Of course, we can reference any other polarization state, so any other direction. And remember, E theta can be complex value. When we will calculate E theta, we will see E theta is complex value. If E theta is complex value, then F is also complex value. Therefore, there can be two conditions for measuring it or for expressing it. First is, if it is a complex number, it will have a amplitude or absolute part and have an angle part or phase part. Set the phase to 0. At any point of time, say that I am starting at this point. So t is equal to 0, set phase to 0. At the same time or same point, normalize the magnitude to unity. Then the interest is only in the relative phase behavior. So phase is nulled out. We are not considering the effect of phase in that case. This is one way of finding the radiation pattern. Other way is you can either use magnitude of F theta or use magnitude of or use P theta, because P theta is real itself. Now let us look at different patterns or naming of different patterns. Look at this sphere. This is the same sphere that I showed you. In this, E direction is from Z or the vertical towards the H plane, XY plane. From the Z axis towards the XY plane is E. On the XY plane is H. So you can see the vectorial representation of E and H, which are just below the antenna at the center or at the origin. H is in the horizontal plane, E is in the vertical plane. Therefore, we call the horizontal plane to be the H plane and the vertical plane to be the E plane. Right? So, the pattern will be called E plane pattern when it contains the electric vector, because it is lies in one of the planes which passes through the Z axis. Similarly, H plane pattern will be containing the H phi field, magnetic field. It lies in a plane perpendicular to an E plane and it can cut across the test antenna. In this case, it is in the XY plane. These planes are called the principal plane patterns. In general, these are for linearly polarized antennas. Principal planes for single unidirectional beams have two orthogonal planes passing through the beam peak. So once you have a principal plane, find out the beam. If you have only one main beam, take any two orthogonal planes passing through that beam, cutting through that beam. Those are your principal planes. But they should be along Z axis. Then let us look at what is called omnidirectional pattern. This is a pattern in which there is no theta variation. We have come to a plane in which we keep theta fixed and we vary the phi. The phi varies over the xy plane. So therefore, it is uniform over one plane. If it is uniform over one plane, then we call it an omnidirectional pattern. But if I look at the theta plane, it can be some different shape. In this case, I am showing you a figure of 8. In the theta variation, it is a figure of 8. If I rotate that across or around the Z, then I will got a donut. So the third figure is a donut figure. So everywhere in this, everywhere on the xy plane, the value is constant, but as you move towards Z axis, it varies like a figure of 8. Its utility is in ground-based application. Any application where the receiver or transmitter is mostly on ground, then or the transmission, the radiation is to be received or transmitted from the ground, then you will find omnidirectional patterns very useful because pattern is horizontal to the plane. And now let us look at 3D patterns, radiation patterns. If you take a 3D view, the purpose is to have a or to quantify the radiation pattern characteristics. If I look at a 3D, it will be easy to visualize it. Let us look at a 3D picture. So this shows a typical 3D view of a radiation pattern. It gives good overall impression of the entire radiation pattern, in which direction it is propagating, what are the other directions or minor lobes are very clear, but it lacks proper quantitative information. That is the demerit. So if you look at a 3D pattern, do a simulation, look at a 3D pattern. From the pattern, it is difficult to derive any inferences. But if you take a chord in this 3D pattern, in any pattern or in any plane, for example, I am taking this chord. So if I take a chord in the 3D pattern, then I will get my E-plane pattern, my H-plane pattern. On the E-plane pattern, H-plane pattern, I can characterize the antenna completely. Some of the popular pattern plots are the E-plane pattern and H-plane pattern. For that, we have chords. If I have a chord for fixed phi value, it becomes a function of theta alone. Then, in that case, the side lobes are alternatively positive and negative value. You can see this on the right hand side picture. Now what is side lobe level? Now let me first explain you this picture. In this picture, I am showing you a cut taken in the Z plane for a radiation pattern, and it is a normalized radiation pattern. So you can see the main beam is 1. It is normalized, means whatever value you get, divide it by the maximum value. So maximum value by maximum value will be 1. Other values will be less than maximum value. When you divide that by maximum value, you will get less than 1. So maximum value of the normalized pattern will be 1. So we get 1 is the maximum value for the main beam, right? Then in the main beam, if I come down to half of the power, 1 is my field. This is field pattern. 1 is my field pattern. If I come to half power point on the left side or on the right hand side, what will be my half power point? If the peak is 1, half power is 0.707 or 3 dB. You know why it is 0.707 or 3 dB? Power is equal to E square. Therefore, half power is equal to 1 by root 2, right? If 1 over, so P is equal to half, which is equal to E square. So E is equal to 1 by root 2. So when you have your power is reduced to half, then E becomes 1 by root 2. 1 by root 2 is equal to 0.707. If I express that in dB, dB or 10 log of 1 by root 2 is equal to -3. So this point is called the half power point or -3 dB point. Now the angular separation between these two points on the left hand side and on the right hand side of half power is called half power beam width. This is the beam, the main beam. On the main beam, come down to the half power point and find out the angular separation between the left hand and the right hand. That gives you the half power beam width. Then on both sides or on any side of the main beam, there can be smaller beams, which are called side lobes, right? Then there can be minor lobes, which are smaller than the side lobes. Then there can be back lobes, which are pointing towards the back or in the opposite direction, almost in the opposite direction of the main beam. Now, how to find out back lobes? Just take a horizontal plane through the origin of this pattern. So whatever is in the upward direction is the main beams, side lobe, minor lobes, etc. What is below that are called back lobes. Back lobes can be minor lobes, back lobes can also be side lobes. Right. So I think I have given you some of the definitions. Then another definition is the beam width between the nulls. Now look at the main lobe and the side lobe. Between them there is a point where the value is 0 because it is neither 1 nor anything nearer to 1 or anything that can be measurable. So those are called null points where the field value is 0. So the angular separation between the first two null points is called the beam width of first null or BWFN, beam width of first or beam width due to first. So this is an explanation of a radiation pattern, a cut of radiation pattern. I take an explanation of that. Now, what is side lobe level? This is a relative term. Find out what is the main lobe value, peak value of the main lobe, then find out what is the peak value of the side lobe, take their ratio, that gives you the side lobe level. This measures the power concentration in the main lobe compared to the side lobe, the ratio of the pattern value of a side lobe peak to the pattern of the main lobe peak. This is called side lobe level. The largest side lobe value or largest side lobe level for the whole pattern is the SLL. The maximum relative side lobe level will be SLL expressed in dB. As for my definition, this will be 20 log FSLL by FSLL maximum value of F. So that gives you the SLL in dB. This is for a normalized pattern when F max is equal to 1 or for the pattern that I have shown in the right hand figure. I think I have discussed about what is half power beam width. You can take a formal definition of that. The definition goes like this. Half power beam width quantifies the main beam characteristics. It is the angular separation of points in power pattern main beam where power equals 1/2 of the maximum value. So HPBW or half power beam width is equal to theta HP left minus theta HP right mod. So that will be a positive value absolute of that. So now let us see how we can reference to an antenna. What type of antenna it is? So antenna referencing. This helps in categorizing the antennas according to their patterns. For example, I can say I have an isotropic antenna. Pattern is isotropic. This is a hypothetical antenna. It radiates equally well in all directions and has constant radiation pattern. So based on this, I can call it an isotropic antenna, classify it accordingly. Omnidirectional antenna. Ideal dipole is an example of omnidirectional antenna. Pattern is constant in one plane. It is realizable, not hypothetical. It has many practical applications because it is realizable. One of the applications is your mobile phones or cell phone antennas. They should respond equally from all directions in the horizontal plane. So they require an omnidirectional antenna. Similarly, the base station antenna, it should radiate equally in all horizontal plane, or you have to design a antenna system in the base station so that the antenna system radiates equally well in all directions in the horizontal plane so that users can receive the radiation on the ground. Now look at this picture. It looks like a fan blade and it is along the Z direction. This is for a dipole antenna. I am taking this picture for a dipole antenna. This type of beam is called a fan beam because it resembles the blade of a fan. Of course, nowadays you don't find such a blade in the fan, but this comes from the old days when fan blades used to look like this. The main beam looks like this. Now look at this. This is in the Z direction, right? If it is in the Z direction, the main beam maximum is in a direction normal to the plane that contains the antenna. If that happens, then we call it broadside antenna. If the main beam direction is on the plane containing the antenna, then we call it end fire antenna. So classification can be, it can be broadside antenna or it can be end fire antenna. Main beam is in the plane containing the antenna. For linear current on Z axis, the broadside antenna direction is theta is equal to 90 degrees and end fire directions are 0 to 180 degrees. Now between these two extremes, end fire and broadside, lies all other patterns which we call the intermediate pattern. Either it is broadside or it is end fire or it is intermediate between broadside and end fire. So we discussed about what we had discussed in the last class. We gave an introduction to the antenna, what is definition of the antenna. Then gradually we saw types of antenna, utility of antenna. Then we divided the field region into three different regions: near field, radiating near field, far field. Then we saw the pattern in the far field, discussed about the pattern and discussed about the terms which can be defined in terms of the pattern, and we ended at referencing the antenna or classifying the antenna based on the radiation pattern. So this is where I should stop now. If you have questions, I will be happy to take them or answer them. If you have any comments or if you have any suggestions, I will be happy to address that.